What's good, everybody? Last Messiah again. But while I'm dropping videos today, I'ma go through another monumental video for y'all. I've been meaning to drop this, but been a little busy or whatnot. So I'ma go and grace y'all with it today, right? The topic of this video is gonna be why there is no devil in the Old Testament. Now, a lot of people assume or feel like the devil was introduced in the Bible in the book of Genesis in the garden or whatever. But there was no devil in the story. It was a serpent in the story that tricked the woman into disobeying God. So the term of them using an adversary or someone that goes against God's purpose or will made them turn the snake into a devil or adversary. But the book deals with many different entities that over time come from previous religions. And these previous religions, different cultures like the Jews have borrowed these stories and incorporated them into their legends. So the story of the serpent making the woman fall from grace is not the devil per se. Now, Satan in the book is an adversary. Let's deal with what Satan is. Satan is anyone who opposes God's purpose on a political, physical, or spiritual level. So any one of these three things could be ruled as the Satan. So when you're dealing with the book of Job and Satan decides to interfere with Job and go against God's purpose with Job, I guess, people assume that became the devil or Satan. But really, the story is showing you that it was a council of gods, and it was different gods with different purposes. But that's another time for another video. Trying to stay on topic here with this devil Lucifer thing. Now, people think that in the book of Isaiah 14 it talks about the fall of Satan, or the beginning of the explanation of how Satan fell from heaven. But in proper interpretation and reading of the scripture, you will see that the passage was talking in parable style allegory about the king of Tyre, who was basically a tyrant in the land, and he weakened a lot of the nations. And some type of way he fell from his grace of following the Lord. And God was basically telling him that he was going to take everything from him. As the sun is bright in the sky, you will be bright. But when you fall from heaven, it's like a person falling from grace and losing everything. So that analogy was the point in Isaiah of telling you how the king of Tyre was about to be overthrown or lose his dominion on the throne. You feel me? And this whole decline was supposed to be his punishment for turning away from the Lord. But the church don't render that interpretation that way. They try to make you think that the story is talking about how Satan fell from heaven, and it's not. Because old Lucifer, the word Lucifer, is a modern translation by Greeks, right? So in Greek, Lucifer means the morning star, which they refer to Venus. So when you see the word Lucifer, they just saying the morning star. Old morning star, how you were falling from heaven. That's it. But now, when you go back into the Hebrew, Hallel is really another rendering of Shemek, the sun god. You feel me? In ancient Babylonian mythology. But when the Greeks got it, they just transferred it to Venus. But originally, the story is basically an analogy of the sun rising and setting as a person elevates to greatness and falls. That's it. Has nothing to do with a Satan or a devil getting kicked out of heaven. Now, over hundreds of years of this passage being misinterpreted by the church, then when you get to the New Testament, you got to realize that the New Testament is an entirely different book from the Old Testament. This is a religion that spawned up maybe 500-600 years later in the future. So now you got these new Jews in a whole different time era and time period who have misinterpreted the whole thing, and tradition has spawned this devil. Now they start writing in the New Testament and Revelations about Satan and his war in heaven and God kicking Satan out of heaven and this and that. So really the New Testament is your foundation of Satan getting kicked out of heaven. It has no foundation in the Old. That's why I tell people, like, I'm not a Hebrew Israelite or anything like that, but when I try to dig into the roots of Judaism, why not go back to the Old Testament or the Torah to make sure that the claims that the New Testament are trying to piggyback off of the Old Testament to gain validity, if it don't hold under that standard, you can't use it. So this is basically the Jews' opposition with Jesus the whole time in the scriptures. Jesus' claims of being the Messiah or a prophet, regardless of what he was doing, did not add up to what the Old Testament said the Messiah would be and who and what his purpose was. So therefore, Christians only fall for the Christian, you know what I'm saying, the Christian game, and Jews stay on their side of the fence. That's why it's two different religions, and y'all have to understand that. Now, I'm not bashing either one of them. I'm just bringing y'all clearer interpretation on these scriptures. Now, hopefully, this whole explanation about Hillel and the shining one and the bright star shows you that the verse in Isaiah shows that there's no devil in the Old Testament. I hope that helped any of y'all that's trying to get to the root of that issue about the devil, but it's plain as day. There's no devil in the Old Testament. 100.